Hello and welcome to this week's Hobbytime at Healys video. Thank you very much for tuning in. This week I'm going to be talking about my first impressions after playing my first few games of Warhammer 40,000 9th edition. So grab yourself a cuppa and let's dive on in. So for this week's video, I'm just going to talk about my first impressions of playing Warhammer 40k 9th edition. So I've only played a couple of games, so I haven't quite got a fully formed opinion of it yet, but this is more my first impressions after my going into my first few games. So just to set the picture here, I've played a couple of incursion missions using 1,000 points. I myself have played custodes in all my games, and I've gone up against a variety of armies. So I like to think I've got kind of an idea of how it works, and I just thought I'd share some first impressions with you. I might be a little late to the party, but with social distancing and everything, it's taken me a while to organise some games. So first off, when comparing it to 8th edition, I would say the first thing I noticed was how key building your list is in terms of the points variations because of the new structure with command points. For myself as a custodes player, I found this absolutely brilliant because I always found I was at a deficit of command points. So when it comes to actually writing a list for 9th, it's pretty simple and easy to do because I can just easily knock up a list. It doesn't matter if it's a patrol detachment or a battalion, or I mean, face it, I'm never going to get a brigade detachment really of custodes. But it was quite nice to know that I could put everything in a patrol detachment that I wanted to do for 1,000 points and not be at such a deficit of command points. So first off, I really enjoyed that. Secondly, one of the things I noticed was actually I kind of get the idea of looking at the structure of points games. These days, I'm probably going to only play in multiples of 1,000, which is a little peculiar. I was always writing out 1,250, 1,500 points, 750 list here and there. But this kind of new idea that actually playing 1,000 points, between 1,000 and obviously 1,999, you're going to get 6 command points. And then at 2,000 points, you're going to get 12. I'm probably only really going to play 1,000 or 2,000. I mean, I may have, if I've got 1,500 points knocked up and it's all I've got painted and my opponent's the same, sure, we'll have a game. But for me, it's encouraging me to get that extra 500 points painted up and ready for the tabletop. Personally, when I'm now writing out my lists, again, this is only my own personal opinion, I'll probably only play in multiples of 1,000. I just think it's worth doing in terms of the command point structure. But yeah, that's my overall impression first off. So another thing I noticed, and this is when I got to the tabletop, was actually how setting up the game, so this isn't necessarily deployment, it's physically setting up the board, takes a lot longer than it used to in previous editions. Now this isn't a bad thing, I want to kind of relay that how it sounds like I'm being a bit negative, but I'm really not. It's just so much more crucial, because you decide on your mission, obviously which you roll for, which is super cool. The board gets set up in a certain way, and you really have to follow those step-by-steps that come in that starting, basically how you basically start off into the battle. Yeah, so once you got all of your objectives are fixed, really enjoy that. There's no messing around, It also sets the scene for the terrain. The terrain is going to be for boards, kind of very specifically done, which I think is going to be nice because we're going to see a lot more terrain come out of it and a lot more, because it has to go in certain positions, we'll see like a variety of different boards. We're not going to see the standard 2 line of sight blockers in the deployment zone, 1 big line of sight blocker in the middle, and a few bits. We're going to actually, you are forced to kind of to put the terrain and set it up in different ways, which is going to make the games a lot more interesting. Then of course you've got, once you've decided everything, you've got your army and you sort of start setting everything up, you have to decide your secondaries. Again, for my first few games, first one I really didn't know what to pick. I just kind of went, oh, that sounds cool, that'll do. When it came to my games later on, I was a lot more very aware of what my army could and couldn't achieve. The whole idea now of taking an action and kind of locking out that unit for an entire turn is really key. As a player of an army with such small squads and such basically not very many models themselves, it's really important for me to choose the right objectives, and those secondaries, they really give me different ways to play my army, and they're also going to let people tailor their lists to how they want to play, and I think that's going to be really nice. We're not going to see, the same sort of style of armies. We're going to have a lot of differentials here. So for example, my first game I played faced off against Tau, and my previous experience in other editions of Tau is it's just pretty much a gun line sat at the back with lots of fire warriors and a few riptides popping around. This was a very different Tau army because the secondary objectives that were chosen really benefited the list. So it was a few 5-man, breacher squads and fire warrior squads at the back doing those actions while I'm getting locked down at the other end of the board by a Riptide flying around, lots of Crisis battle suits. It was a really, really good game. And I loved the fact that I was going up against a Tau army that I kind of had no idea really how to face off against, because it was so different to anything else I'd gone against before. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of really interesting lists coming up. And once all more codexes are out, and we're probably, I'd say, about 12 months into 9th, we're going to see we're going to get a really interesting meta. So yeah, super excited, really enjoying that so far. So yeah, just setting up the tables and choosing your secondaries really changes the game for me. Now, when it came to actually playing the physical game itself, there wasn't a lot of differences. The only real big change for me was obviously the command phase. Gaining that command point at the beginning of each turn really, really changed how my army runs. Again, I normally, in 8th, I ran my custodes in like a vanguard detachment. If I was lucky, I might be able to get a battalion out of 2,000 points, but not really. I ran on quite a deficit of command points versus my opponent. So that ability now to just gain a command point each turn, for me, just really opens up a lot more possibilities. It almost even makes like the command reroll kind of pay for itself if you do choose to do it. I know there's a lot of players who don't really like the command reroll, they feel it's not worth the command points. But now that you're getting one back every turn, you can kind of throw it away at the end of your turn just to be like, oh god, I want to try and save that guy. I think it's really nice. It definitely adds, again, another dimension to the game. When we go into the rest of the phases, there's not a lot of difference, I've found. There wasn't really any issues playing. It felt very similar to 8th, just a lot more clear-cut. When there was a rules query, we went straight to the book, found it, boom, done. There's no arguing, there's no interpretation, there's no this, there's no that. It's very clear-cut, almost sometimes too clear-cut. Being somebody who's played going way back to 4th edition kind of onwards, there was always a bit of ambiguity around some of the rules. So now that you can turn around and go, this is it, this is clear-cut how it works, you kind of read it and you go, but is that how it works? And you almost have to have that idea where you're like, yes, this is how it works now, come on, this is it. And it was a bit strange, but I'm now getting used to it. So very much enjoying the very clear-cut rules at the moment. One of the other fundamental things I found a little bit different when playing the game was actually having a pen and paper handy as well. And this is for recording your secondaries and recording your victory points, because it becomes so much more important to have those physically written down. The good example of this is looking at the tournament sheet. So yeah, on the back of the chapter approved, you've got like a tournament sheet, which kind of gives you an idea of how you should be laying out everything. I mean, for me, I just got a notepad that has my lists in it, and I literally write out which secondaries I've chosen, what the primary objective is, and then next to them I'll tally everything up. It's really good because that's kind of it. That's all you have to keep track of. The fact that there was no rules on sort of Slay the Warlord, Line Breaker, or anything like that actually freed it up a little bit more. You wouldn't have to worry about that 1 or 2 points here or there. It's actually, if you want to go for Slay the Warlord, you pick cut off the head or assassinate as one of your secondary objectives. You want to go for Line Breaker, you take that as an objective where you get in your opponent's zone. So it's really nice. But yeah, having that pen and paper and having to physically write everything down felt a little different, but it was very quick to get used to, and I actually prefer it now because everything's very clear cut. And you almost take that time at the end of each phase just to go, did I score any secondaries? No, didn't. Great. You find yourself then, by the time you get into the halfway through turn 2, you already know when you need to check off when to do it. Yeah, definitely different, but really enjoyable. And finally, probably the only other thing to say about my first few games was time. I felt the games went really quickly, which was really good. It was very smooth. I mean, my first 2 games, I have to admit, were a little slower than how I played in 8th, and that's simply because there was a lot of double checking, make sure we are doing it right, following the step-by-steps, which isn't a bad thing to do. And actually having this very long period of time because of what's been going on in the world and not being able to play any games, almost I was starting off as a blank slate, which felt really nice. It meant I actually had to go to the rulebook, I had to read how to do this, how this phase work, which order do we do everything in. And personally, I thought it was almost quite lucky, because to be a little bit of a blank slate after not playing for so long meant I had to read the rules, and there's no muddying the water between what happened in 8th, what happened in 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, and sometimes you pick up those bad habits where you carry over rules, where you just go, oh no, that's how it happens, and the reality is actually when you check the book now, that's not how it happens. And because there is this gap in knowledge of not playing for so long, I am checking the rules, and I kind of enjoyed that, because that's it now. 9th is in my head. That's what I know how to play. I don't seem to be blurring the lines, or I'm not aware I am, and neither are my opponents, and who are all in the same boat. But overall, the games themselves are very quick. They're very smooth. So far, again, after my first few games, my impressions of 9th edition is I'm giving it a real big thumbs up. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's very smooth, and spending that time for your first few games, it may feel a bit slow and clunky. Don't worry about that. That's just make sure you're checking the rules as you go along. After that, they do get quicker. It's like anything, coming to the table, having to learn something new. It's going to take you a little while. So there we have it. That's kind of it, really. That's my first impressions of Warhammer 9th edition. What I'm planning on doing is in a few months' time, coming back, putting another video up about how I'm feeling a little bit further on and what I think of the rules then. It looks like we're going to get some really cool stuff added in. I haven't quite explored Crusade yet. That's going to be something I'm really looking forward to doing over the next few months. We are seeing new rules coming from all the Codex previews about extra things that are going to be added in. We'll see how they fare and hopefully don't clunk up this nice smooth system that's already in place. But otherwise, yeah, really enjoying 9th edition. So just want to say now, thank you very much for watching and tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed the video. A couple of little announcements. We mentioned them in the videos last week, so just want to go back over them. First off, if you are watching this video, please check out my Instagram page. I have teamed up with a fantastic creator, which is Needle and Notebook, who create custom dice bags for tabletop players, whether it's miniatures games, roleplay, anything like that. And we are doing a giveaway of a set of Disciples of Tzeentch dice and a custom one-of-a-kind hand tie-dyed dice bag, which is super cool. That's on my Instagram. If you're watching this many months away, do double check the dates on the Instagram because the giveaway may have already ended. But this is all in celebration of launching of the Hobbytime at Healys Discord community channel. So please check all that out in my link tree below in the description. My Instagram's on there as well as the Discord. Come and join. We're always happy to have more people. And if you want to talk about more sort of Warhammer stuff and join us, please join us for our Sunday hobby hangouts on Twitch. It's myself and a few friends and a few other fellow content creators, and we just chat about all the gaming news from the week whilst doing some hobby. And we have a fantastic community that's being built up at the moment who are all really engaging in the chat and absolutely loving it. So please come and join us on Sundays. The schedule's on Twitch, but we normally start around about 1 PM. It's great fun. It really is really good fun. So just going to leave it there and say thank you very much. And remember, stay safe out there, be positive, and as always, be an ambassador for your hobby. Thank you very much, folks. Goodbye.